Rushmore Show, where we're about to unlock the magical vault of Disney television, revealing the top 4 shows and made-for-TV movies that have enchanted audiences for all ages. Be ready to journey off to far-off lands, embark on thrilling adventures, and experience heartwarming tales that only come from the House of Mouse. From timeless classics to modern marvels, our episode pays tribute to the Disney television treasures that have left a remarkable spot right in our heart. This countdown isn't just about the entertainment side. It's a celebration of imagination, creativity, storytelling magic that brings back Disney television show. Grab those Mickey ears, subscribe to the channel, and prepare to rediscover the enchantment as we unveil the top 4 Disney television shows that continue to captivate audiences worldwide. Go ahead and wish upon the star. The Rushmore Show starts right now. This is the Rushmore Show, where it's all about your top 4 and nothing more. Andy, it is, well, this is a pre-record. So it's the first time we've done a pre-record in a while. When we had 2 back-to-back shows. So if my math is correct, this is June 21st. It is my anniversary. It is your daughter's birthday, and you are in town at my studio preparing to record another show later in the year for the camp travel. But man, welcome to my home, and you guys hopefully can give us a slight break and get to enjoy what we like to do on the pre-edits. So, Andy, today we got a fun show. We got a cool guest, new guest, breaking in a new guy again. And Andy, how do you think movies have been going? How do you think movies and TV have been doing?
Well, movies and TV has been a ton of fun. It's been kind of cool having us in different spots. I think you were at my house for one when we had 5 nights on, and then we were at the church with Karsyn. Now I'm at the church in my own office with all of my toys, my cage-free toys, mind you. And actually, this football right here, sports is coming up. But I'd like to show this off. I got this given to me as a gift. I'm not a Bears guy. I'm not a Bears fan at all, but it was just given to me. And oh my gosh, Mike Singletary signature, Hall of Fame, 93.
I was thinking it was going to be Matt Forte, because
no.
Many of you may not know, but Matt's from Slidell, our hometown. Yeah. And check this out, fun story about Matt. I babysat him and his brother with Kyle, my nephew, and because my nephew was best friends with his brother, Brian Forte. So
and you never got tickets. You never got tickets to the game because you were the babysitter club.
I was the adventure in babysitting. I was the bad babysitter.
Anyway, movies and TV has been great. It's been tons of fun. And today, I think up to this point, we've only kind of really touched on movies. But today we're going to switch things up a little bit. Kirk, what's today all about?
So both of us have an affinity of one level or another for the Disney franchise. I'm sorry, my fellow Disney haters like Francisco, but I love Disney. I love I love a lot of the things that they're absorbing. Now there's an argument that they're probably monetizing it in a different way and maybe not doing justice to everything, but we've had plenty of conversations on this show. I just want to be entertained. So many people like watch movies and TV and just pick it apart for the real stuff and the original. I like when my childhood comes to life and I get to watch it. I'm not a huge reader, so even when I had comic books and even coloring books or whatever, I'd rather see it moving on the stage. And if they take some liberties, whatever. But most of these things I love. So today we're going to do Rushmore of Disney television. Now, we got a couple caveats. I guess your criteria comes in pretty big here, but basically anything that is Disney, which is a huge overarching thing. So, in my criteria personally, it has to be an original Disney property before they absorb it. So, for instance, they got Star Wars, I think, in 2012. So I'm not going back and doing something that may have happened in 19 or 2002. They took Marvel over. I'm not going back and doing old cartoons that I watched on Fox, but I might do some new stuff. That's just my criteria, just to kind of narrow it down because Disney owns the world. They are,
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, you got probably Zuckerberg, Gates, the Clintons, and Disney. So those are the four people ruling the world, and we're just here to kind of enjoy it. So we're gonna do Disney television, and we've done animated cartoons. Be sure to go back and check this video out and check out animated movies. And I'm gonna be honest, Andy, one of the best intros we've ever done. A rendition of me singing the Toy Story theme for the Rushmore Show. So,
Yep.
go check that out. But Andy, are you ready?
I am ready. I am so ready. This is going to be fun.
Was this a hard list for you? Look, for the record, we threw this all together in less than 24 hours. So we usually have plenty of time figuring this out. And our guest is a fairly new guest around town, so we had to explain a few things for him. And we're excited to have him on because he's a new member of the Summit Squad. But Andy, in such short notice, I know you're still penciling in different things on your list. So this ought to be a fun trip.
Yeah, I'm on record as saying that I was a big Nickelodeon guy. I was even a big Cartoon Network guy. I was a big Fox Kids guy. I watched some Disney. Now I love the Disney movies, but Disney TV was actually a little bit more difficult than I thought it was going to be. But I'm excited. I like my list. I think there's some bangers here, and it's just going to be a great time, man, for sure.
Yeah, so let's do this, man. Let's get into the Rushmore of Disney television. Let's get it. All right, Andy. So let me introduce the guest. As you guys know, I've been begging you guys to go into our comments and go and subscribe and join these amazing communities that have welcomed us. I've been spending time in Bert's community, which connected me to Sith's community, which between the two has branched off into all these other smaller communities. The communities are things like comic books and card collecting. There's a cat community, for goodness sake, and you know how much I absolutely love cats. But there is a huge cat community. I think it has to start with a C, I guess, huh? Collecting cards, comics, cats. So, anyways, we have run into several friends, and I have a guy who shows up. All of a sudden, he shows up at our show, and man, he really loves it. So I was like, threw him a bone, just like anybody. If you support our show, we want you to be a part of our show. So if you support, you're here. Don't be nervous. Don't be shy. If you want to be on the show, let us know, especially if you're a creator. But today, we're going to bring on a new friend, a new bud, and hopefully one that we can build and help him grow his channel. We're going to welcome in, he goes by DJ Wize. We are welcoming our new friend, our new bro, James, to the show. What's up, James? How are you doing? Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me, first of all. And whether this is in the show or out of the show, still 100% nervous and anxieties through the roof.
I get that. Hey, so look, tell us a little bit about your YouTube journey. What got you started? You were kind of telling me it's a fairly new thing. Your wife just started a new channel,
Yep.
I think. Crafting with Bethany might be it, something like that. But
yeah,
I know that you guys are kind of doing this YouTube thing. Tell us your journey. What's your show's about? Send our Summit Squad your way. Everybody go follow and love and like those guys. Tell us a little bit about your show.
So started, I believe January or February. I had a couple YouTube things here and there over the years. It was just me when I was part of a wrestling gaming league. That was really my YouTube, or just sharing clips that I liked with people or funny things. But January, February changed. Paul and the 619, who I used to work with in California, is a friend of mine. He invited me to be a part of his show, and that's what kind of started my journey now, being a part of his show and his Paul and the 619 and the Amazing Friends show, Tuesdays, I believe at 5 p.m. Pacific time. So did that for a couple weeks, and him and a couple of the others, Vogs and Chance and all that, they're like, you should do your own thing, you should do some sort of your own show or channel. And of course, I'm back and forth because I'm not antisocial, but very unsociable because my nerves and everything else. Um, so I started out doing it, visiting more of their channels, visiting your channels, being all around. Not not necessarily trying to get my name out there, but just trying to see what this is all about and what all these different community members are doing. Sports, films, comics, games, stuff like that. And that's how it kind of started. And then I just figured, all right, let's kind of do my own thing with it, trying to invite who I can be a part of it. Mine's more of just a hangout, kind of with some trivia and stuff like that. Trying to play off of my name, Wise, being the wise person. Which then I kept trying to get my wife into it. She didn't want to, and I kept inviting her to Paul's show and inviting her to Paul's show, and then finally one day she's just like, put it off the bucket list and just joined one day and started doing it. And now she's part of almost everybody else's that's part of that show.
Awesome,
yeah, so
awesome.
a couple things. Let me jump in. This is from Paul and the 619 right here. Paul, I ended up going on his show, and the second time I showed up, the Rushmore Show ended up landing on the spinner. I have I got to do an opening for this, but it is basically a slab that he sent me. So,
Nice.
comic book slab. You'll see by the time this video is out, you probably already can see it. Go back and check that out, but it's probably on. I've got a couple
Nice.
openings from some things I won that I need to open, but Paul's great, man. We actually did a video for Paul in the 619, which I hope was in the intro for his show a couple weeks back as well. Andy and I did a little clip for him, and that's also in the shorts. You want to go check that out. But everybody, go follow DJ Wize and Crafts with Bethany. Support them. If you support us, you support them. And yeah, just hit that notification bell, do all those things, and welcome. We're gonna get started with your Rushmore. And with that being said, you're going to give us our criteria first. Criteria is very important when it comes to Rushmores because we feel Rushmores are subjective, not objective. Many people would go out and give you the GOATs, the number 1, 2, 3, and 4. If I said who's your favorite basketball player, most people will have either Jordan or LeBron or Kobe at the top. Other people like myself would put Shaq somewhere really high because we love that guy, and I'm an LSU fan, and I'm from Louisiana, and I just love that kind of side of thing. Not that I dislike those guys, but when a Rushmore for us is who is your favorite, right? Who is your top person? Who is yours? Not everybody in the world. So when you give your criteria, that lets us know if you're a nerd, a geek, you're left, you're right, you're up, you're down, whatever you are, and we can figure out where you're going, which then justifies everything we're going to say today. Give us your criteria, and then we're going to jump into your Rosie. Rosie is Roosevelt. That's number 4, line in the sand. So you're up.
So, like you said, we did this in short time because we all have things going on. So, my criteria, once I figured out that kind of regular Disney movies were off the table, it was a little bit harder because, again, just like Andy said, Nickelodeon was my jam, Fox was my jam. There was some Disney things there, but I just wanted to go back into, if you will, the Google Copter and make sure that these were, Disney shows or Disney movies. I didn't want to get something else that wasn't. So my criteria, once I figured out that, was a little bit easier. Um, and then just go right into the Rosie, or
Yep.
Yeah, so that's great. So let's go into your Roosevelt, and this is your number 4. So Andy and I, for whatever reason, have just linked on to this word like line in the sand, right? And when you draw that line, when you're saying you're on this side of the mountain, this is nobody else can come in the top 4. We always kind of figure your 1 or 2 are pretty easy. Definitely 1. Most of us can nail the George. But if you are thinking, gosh, who else? Maybe this one, maybe that one. So number 4 is probably the hardest of all of them, but we call him Roosevelt. We call Roosevelt Rosie. And let's go where you're going to go. Let's start building your mountain. Your first one. Go ahead.
So I'm gonna start my Rushmore number 4, Rosie. I'm gonna kind of go with one of the earlier Disney Channel original films, but not the first. It's I think 4th or 5th, Halloween Town. Like horror, spooky stuff, and yeah, it's more of a family movie and doesn't have all the elements of the more, I don't want to say adult horror, but like the harder horror. But it had the comedy for me, and which I was big on, and just seeing how they would kind of incorporate the horror and comedy together for me at that age was kind of cool. And the fact that they made 2 sequels was also pretty cool. Now it may not be everybody's favorite, but I got to start it off with number 4 because that's one of the first ones I remember.
Yeah, this is a great pick. I love the route that you're going to go with this because, and I'll get to mine in a minute. But this is a fantastic one. This is did we mention this, Kirk? I got to remember. Did we mention this in horror? Well, we did horror films, so
we
I
did
don't. I
horror
guess this is
film
still
with
horror film.
Mark, and
It's
then
still
we did
film.
horror TV shows with
Tracy.
With Tracy.
Yeah.
And so horror TV shows, we actually did spooky TV shows. But I think Halloween Town found, at least in the conversation there, as a young lad, as a young warthog, look, rocking my Hakuna Matata today.
There you go.
Young
There you
warthog.
go.
Nice.
I did like the Halloween Towns. I cannot, in my mind, because I wasn't like a huge fan, decipher the differences between 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. But I do remember the gist of the show, or the TV made for TV movies. But I enjoyed them. I did. And they're fun. They're appropriate for the most part for all ages. And I like the idea. We mentioned Nightmare Before Christmas, and they got Christmas Town,
Yeah.
Halloween Town, and it's kind of that same idea.
Yeah.
And it's really cool. I love it.
For whatever reason, the
where you
scene
going?
in
You
that,
mentioned in your previous stuff that you liked horror, so I was like, I wonder if he's going to incorporate some of that. So yeah, cool.
yeah, for whatever reason, out of this movie, the scene that jumps out to me in my memory is kind of towards the beginning when they're entering into that Halloween town, and there's the taxi cab driver who is like also who's a skeleton. I don't know,
Yeah.
like that skeleton guy always just jumps out at me. But yeah, this is a fantastic pick. I love this pick. I love that you're going this route for sure.
Yeah, I figured I started off with one of the movies.
Yeah, good stuff. Yes,
So
yes.
Andy, what is your criteria? And your criteria you put together in 24 hours, and kind of what are you penciling off your list currently right now as you're still building? And let us know where you're going.
Yeah, it's funny you do mention that. We kind of jokingly say that, but things are coming to my mind as we do this, and this happens a lot of times on the Rushmore Show. But I will say, criteria-wise, much like James just said, much more Nickelodeon guy, much more Fox Kids, Cartoon Network, that kind of stuff. But what I will say is I believe that Disney owned the game when it came to made-for-TV movies and still does. I believe that's the market that they've cornered. Now, I'm not mentioning all four of mine as being that, but it was an interesting thing that played into picking these choices, the Rushmore today. I will mention at least one of them. But I tried to go completely nostalgic. What's really interesting, though, is I might mix in some newer stuff because I have a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old, and we watch some Disney, some shows now with Disney Plus and having the streaming ability. I mean, you get to watch all of these shows. You get to watch some nostalgic ones, but also some of these more contemporary ones. So there's kind of a wide range of things that happen in this. But criteria, I didn't overcomplicate it. I liked it. I watched it multiple times. I watched through the series. It's just fun stuff. So,
isn't it funny how that goes when we don't have weeks of isn't that funny how it goes when we don't have weeks of time that you're just trying to put something together? It's just like, yeah, did I like it or did I not?
Quickly do it.
Did I like it or not?
Oh.
Yeah. So, Andy, what is your Rosie, man? Show the world the beginnings of your mountain.
Yeah. All right. So my Rosie, let me pull up my list again right here, just so I have it in front of me. I'm going to go for a made-for-TV movie, and this is probably my most recent one that I'm going to pick today, at least on my top 4. My Benjamins, I may throw some other ones in. This was a series of a few movies. I'm going to pick the first one just so I can pick one because I think it's brilliantly written. I think the concept for this movie is just, how did we not think about this before? I love that it ties in the old classic Disney with some of the newer and everything. And I'm going to go to the year 2015, so 9 years ago. This movie comes out, the first one at least. And I'm going to go with Descendants. Very much inspired by my kids. They love this movie. It's a musical / kind of fantasy deal. But what it does is it takes those classic villains in Disney lore and it says, who are the descendants of these? And they're kind of the new baddies, right? When it comes to this world. But what you wind up finding out is that they're actually, they turn for the good and all that kind of stuff. But you've got Dove Cameron in this one. You've got R.I.P. Cameron Boyce was in this one. Again, they're playing Maleficent's daughter, the evil witch, right? For Evie, Sophia Karsyn is in it. I think it's Cameron Boyce's mom is Cruella de Vil. Like it just brings in those things, and it also brings in some of the good guys and their descendants. Basically, it's like this next generation of Disney descendants, right? Of royalty and of all that kind of stuff. And it's fun. It's interesting. Like I said, the concept is just amazing. But I love this movie. My kids watch it a lot. It's musical throughout it, and it's just a fun time, man. If you haven't watched Descendants, I highly suggest that you do. It's cheesy, right? I mean, I think there has to be a certain level of cheese with these made-for-TV movies and different things. Disney is kind of this. They've mastered, and like I said, they cornered the market on the made-for-TV movie, but they've really cornered the market on like imagination and wonder. If anyone can do that, and they did a great job with that. But my Rosie, my number 4, coming in hot. I'm going to go with The Descendants.
Nice
pick. Man, you are killing. You're killing. Like I'm like, listen, I love Descendants because of my kids.
Right.
Yeah.
Even Canon loves Descendants. There's a couple.
My wife does too.
There's a couple of those made-for-TV movies, kind of like this, that have come out at that same period of time, that have great soundtracks. That my kids,
definitely.
My kids are constantly playing Descendants. They're becoming memes. They're becoming things that are very relevant with middle school. So I hear my middle school like quoting different things from these shows. A lot of stuff comes from this. I'm down with Descendants. There is not a chance that it would make my list. Not even
I get it.
close.
I think
and
the
not
concept
saying,
is cool.
It's bad. I'm just like, gosh, there's so many
There's so many.
fantastic properties.
It made my wife's list.
I am shocked.
Hey, there we go.
So
I wanted to go a little different route, and I'll say this, and this will kind of allude to some of my picks later too.
Spoilers.
Because I didn't watch it Disney consistently. I was more Nickelodeon. I was more, like all those other things I said. There are shows that are just up there with the goats of TV shows of all time in Disney, but I kind of sporadically watched them. I wasn't like in it. And they're not going to make my list today for that reason. So, and that's, I had to cut some things. I think this list today is going to play perfectly.
My criteria
into the whole
really
concept.
helped me to kind of navigate this because I'm going to be honest. My criteria could have came from the same 2-hour block when I was a kid. I'm just gonna be honest. So my criteria really, really made a difference here. I like Descendants. I liked the idea. Did you watch Once Upon a Time? Did you do that?
Yep.
Yeah.
So that was a pretty cool show. I love when Brothers Grimm and when people take a older property and bring it into a new world, kind of switch it around, see it from a different angle. That's why I love the original live action movie Maleficent, right? You get to see it from a different angle, right? So this kind of gives you their kids, and you kind of trying to figure out. I love when like new characters show up and you're like, oh, who's that? Is that Hades' son? Is that the guy from Peter Pan world, or all these different things? You're like, oh, that's Bing Bing Bing, and they put it all together. It's a
What's
cool
crazy? What's crazy in this movie? You mentioned Hades' son. You find out, I think, in Descendants 3, I don't know, one of them, that Maleficent and Hades had a kid, and that's Mal. Mal is Mal's dad is Hades, and mom is Maleficent. And then you, as an adult, start piecing that together, and you're like, how did that work?
My wife would know. My wife would know that. She likes all that stuff.
Yeah. There you go.
I've only ever watched the first one.
Speaking of that, James, Descendants. Your wife loves it. Does she force you to watch this?
Force me? Yes and no. No, I watched the first one. I think I watched the second one with her. I haven't watched the third or the animated or the new. We might watch the new one that's coming out this month, I think. But I'm all for Disney. I like all the musicals and stuff like that.
So,
I mean, here's my all-time favorite right here, Mary Poppins.
There you go, Mary Poppins. Oh, nice.
It's a long story.
Mary Poppins. I mean, shoot. I can get down with Mary Poppins. Did you like the newer ones?
Yeah, I actually liked them. I thought they did good. Like you said, introducing it to a newer generation.
It's my turn. Rosie, number 4. So let me give you your criteria first. 1, I loved it. 2, it had to be an original Disney property. 3, this is my last and final thing. I decided I'm going to pick 4 different categories, my George, basically, my favorite of each, and kind of classify them. I'm going to go new cartoon. I'll give you the other 3 later. So it won't spoil it, but my first one is going to be new cartoon. Andy, this might be a shocker to you. I'm going with my highest IMDb rating of an 8.9, 99% on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm going with X-Men 97 right off the bat. I'm just busting in here. Thank you. All right, so I'm going X-Men 97, and yes, it probably should be way up the list, but it's new, it's fresh. Over the course of maybe several more seasons, it'll be awesome and even more awesome. But it was great, fantastic. I love the new telling. I love how again going back, there is an X-Men Day of Futures Past. There is a there is a time travel, there is all kinds of things that can happen, which means X-Men can restart and reimagine itself anytime we want, and they bring the storyline back. I love some of the new characters. I love the old characters. I love the bad guy in this. Spoiler alert: if you haven't watched episode 5, go watch episode 5, and then go back into our front page. There is a section for reboot. Reboot is just our way of reaching the community. We are Christians. We'll tell you a little bit about that at our halftime, but go back and check out Reboot. Andy did a fantastic message towards episode 5 and before. I just love the X-Men. I love the reimagining. I love the new art. I love how awesome some of the new scenes are. When you watch the original X-Men, Andy, there was not a lot of unless it was like episode 1, episode 2, or part 1, part 2, excuse me. There was not a lot of cohesiveness traveling through the whole season. Sometimes we were all over the place. This looks like they're going to put it all together and make it one long story. And I love that. And at the very end, we see where they're going. And so I love this show. It's one of my favorites. The original X-Men is not necessarily a Disney property, a content, but now that they own them and they have re-brought this out, bingo. 99% Rotten Tomatoes, 8.9 IMDb. It's something that just came out. If you're not on it, go watch it. Chef's Kiss, X-Men 97.
Yeah, this is fantastic. James, what do you think about 97?
No, I thought it was really good. Once I finally watched it, at first I wasn't going to watch it, and everybody kept talking about it because, again, it wasn't one of the things that I grew up watching. The X-Men, the originals, I kind of went sporadically, but then everybody kept talking about it. I'm like, all right, everybody's going to keep talking about it. Let me just watch it. And again, my mind was blown. It was awesome. Just to see that they can make something for, if you will, new generation, but as well as keeping faithful to the original, I think.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why I said what I said about Descendants and kind of about some of these properties. What's really cool about Marvel and DC is there's magic, there's time travel, there's all these different ways to make it happen. And they can just keep doing this. They can keep reinventing. They can keep bringing us to a different part of the timeline. They can keep, and the very first couple episodes, I was like, okay,
right.
Where's Professor X? Where's what's happening here? I need to see some of my other big characters. And then boom, you see these little cameos, which were really cool, right? And by the time this comes out, this show has been out for like almost probably 3 or 4 months. So if we say some things, I'm sorry, but I mean, like all these little cameos going back and seeing like Omega Red, right? Like for like a blip.
Yeah, morph changes
like
into a bunch of different ones.
That was really cool to me. I love the introduction, and he's not really introduced, but he's introduced as a major player now as Morph, right? He was in the old one, just kind of like a little cameo, just popping here and there. But he's like one of the main guys now. I was waiting for the Nightcrawler thing. I'm waiting for some of the bad guys on Magneto's side. I was just waiting to see all these guys jump in. But man, I love this show. It brought back so much nostalgia.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is so good. This is so good. So good.
Yeah, and Andy, I know you love this show, and you did a great job at Reboot. So
and that was a good reboot episode.
You guys go watch Reboot, and we're going to jump to James. James, now we don't need to do criteria. You just jump on into your number 3. This is TJ Jazzy Jeff. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, I don't think is a Disney property, so we're not going to call that one out. No. So let's go. What is your number 3?
All right, I had to do a difference and went to shows after the movie because there weren't a lot of the movies that I liked. I watched, but so I went with number 3 as my TJ Jazzy Jeff. I went with Disney's, which I believe it was on ABC at the time, Recess. And I believe I caught the reruns. I didn't catch them all when they first premiered, but it was just a great show. I thought it had its moments of fun, comedy. Nothing was too, at the time, if you will, adult, but it was fun just to see them get in trouble and stuff like that. And you're that age range, so it was kind of cool to see these different characters. And of course, hey, TJ and Jazzy Jeff kind of work together. There you go.
There you go.
So I thought it was a
So-
nice animated show.
Yeah, I love this show. Andy, what do you like about Recess?
It's good. I would say this is one of those staples. And you mentioned a good point, James. Disney and ABC. There are some shows that are going to air ABC. We know that it's Disney owned too, so we certainly count those. So you almost in a Disney TV, you kind of get the best of
So
those two.
I'm just
things.
fact checking just to make sure, and not that I didn't agree, just so that we can get the information out there for the Summit Squad. So it started on ABC for season 1 through 5, and subsequently back in episode 5 it came back. So 1 through 3, and then 5, 4 and 6 were played on UPN, but it's been syndicated.
Yeah.
From ABC to Toon Disney, Disney XD, and the Disney Channel. 65 episodes, 127 segments. So there were like 2-part segments. They were like 10 minutes apiece. And then there was like a 20-minute special. I love this show. Andy, you have mentioned several cartoons in the past. And one of my favorite things, and when I hear those cartoons, and I'll just tell you a few and you'll know exactly where I'm going. Shrek, Lego Movie, things like this. It is well written. It's from the perspective of what happens at recess at school. So, here's the thing. Most of us would just see a bunch of kids playing. These guys are building, like, hierarchy of government and things. Like, there's just, like, when we show up, these are these kids. These are the stereotypes. These are the whatever. And they're building this, like, little world. But it just happens in 10-minute spots at recess after lunch at school. It's a fantastic watch. This is my first Benjamin that has been mentioned today off my list. I love this bit.
It's streaming on Disney Plus too, so you can watch all the episodes on there.
I did not give the IMDb or the IMDb or the Rotten Tomatoes for this show. So let me just snatch that up real quick. The IMDb, it's a 7.8 out of 10. That's pretty high.
That's pretty high.
That's pretty high. And so I mean, it's a great show. It is fantastic.
Rotten Tomatoes audience meters should be pretty high for this one. This is a beloved cartoon, especially if you're Gen Z, or not Gen Z, millennial. I mean, like that would be kind of in that realm.
And so Rotten Tomatoes, which is just the two we always go to for whatever reason. It seems like the standard IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes. Rotten Tomatoes doesn't
better than
really
Rolling Stone.
It really doesn't have anything to say about this.
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of blank. Oh, here we go. No, all the videos are missing on Rotten Tomatoes, which is weird. Maybe I can find it later and hook you guys up. Oh, here it is. It's Recess. Oh, well, this is Recess Taking the 5th Grade. Is that the full title?
Isn't that the movie? I think that's the special or the movie.
So that has a Rotten Tomatoes meter, a 63 audience, but it doesn't even have a score from the Knuckleheads. It does as a 0 score.
Yeah.
So that might be the movie. But anyways, Andy, I know you love this.
Yes.
Oh, here we go. Oh, this is a future movie. The future movie, which looks more computer CGI animated, 2001. School's Out. Looks like 60% tomato meter, 56 audience per score. Anyways, Andy, what's your TJ?
My TJ Jazzy Jeff. This is one that we had to mention today. Originally had a little bit higher, but based on some shifting and having 24 hours to kind of really think this through. This one's fantastic. I watched a ton of this. I had toys from this line, this TV show. I had a board game. I think it came with like the VHS set. Like there's all kinds of crazy stuff. I have core memories wrapped around this show, and it just may have one of the best theme songs of all time. And I'm going to go. It aired from October 24th, 1994 through February 15th, 1997, with the main characters Goliath. Yeah, we were talking about Gargoyles. Gargoyles has to make the list. Batman animated series, we've talked about that for the Disney Channel in this concept. I love the concept of this. They're these medieval statue gargoyles, or the gargoyles that then had to become these statues, and they guard this tower. And at night they become this, and they're like dinosaur / gargoyle thing. I don't know. They're creatures. They're super, super duper cool. But it's very dark. There's some, for a kid show, had some pretty complex storylines and some writing. Just so many, such a great one. For if you're again a millennial, you're going to reflect on this show quite a bit. And it's a fun show, man. I love Gargoyles, and like I said, that theme song, dun dun dun, like it's so epic. And I think we mentioned this one back with Cellcast quite some time ago when we talked about animated. I don't know, or maybe theme songs. I think it was cartoon theme songs. We actually mentioned this one, but yeah, Gargoyles has to be the way that I'm going. I remember the action figure that I had of Goliath was one of my favorite ones, and now you can find them like as collector pieces for like way too expensive. So yeah, Gargoyles, my TJ Jazzy Jeff.
Nice. I vaguely remember it.
Really?
Yeah, like sporadically, like I remember watching it. I think it was a good opening, though. A good opening, though.
Gosh, that whole opening sequence is just fantastic.
Now, Andy, let me blow your mind a little bit. Okay,
blow my mind.
First off, love this pick. It is definitely a Benjamin of mine. And you'll see why it doesn't make my criteria, but it could if I spent my criteria correctly. Actually, it would probably still be about 5 if I would have done it that way. But this is one of my favorite shows. I love the Gargoyles. I love it's very well written as well. Also, even the Ninja Turtle cartoon kind of stole from this, in my opinion. Like those the made for TV movie where the rock guys come to life. It's kind of the Gargoyles idea. And basically what happens is these gargoyles are protecting like a castle, and somebody buys the castle or takes over the castle, and the gargoyles come to life, and they realize, these guys have lived for centuries, and there's been battling and good versus evil. I love the names for the gargoyles. They're really cool. This is a cool show. And you mentioned the theme song, great. But so just Gargoyles season 1, Andy, on Rotten Tomatoes here. The audience score is a 91%. You'd love that.
Wow.
The tomato meter. The tomato meter. 100%.
There it is.
It is
it's perfect.
The first time I've ever seen the tomato meter 100%. Bang. 100%. Wow. Now that's just for season 1. That's just for season 1. The IMDb score for this is an 8. So an 8.0. Great show. Great artistry. It is very dark themed. You're right. And I remember not getting that. So a couple years ago, and DJ or James, this will probably ring a bell with you. You mentioned the other day we were kind of talking about Batman and which one do you love? And I always mention that I love Batman the Animated Series, one of my favorite. It was very dark as well. Mm-hmm. Gargoyles and this were very similar in that vein, but I was trying to find a way to watch the animated series a couple of years ago, and this is prior to it all being on YouTube or whatever. I found this website. It was a whole bunch of just every cartoon known to man. So I started watching Batman, and then I started watching Gargoyles, and it hit me like a brick. Because I remember loving this, and then watching it from adult eyes, I was like, whoa, some of this is deeper than as a kid. And I love how that's written in too. So you can enjoy it as both.
Nice.
And so a good rewatch for adults might be cool because it's well done. It's very well done.
Also, still streaming on Disney Plus. So if you do want to get reconnected with it, check it out on Disney Plus.
Yeah, I mean, this was prior to Disney Plus and all that, which I'm so
right.
I love Disney Plus that it does that. But the problem with all these streams is like I have so much I want to watch, but so little time. And so
Backlog,
yeah,
big backlog, games, movie, shows.
So I'm going to jump into my TJ Jazzy Jeff to end the first half of the mountain and get ready for the second. So the first one I went new cartoon. This one I'm going into another big property of Disney, and Disney acquired a couple properties, and this is going to be my Marvel television show. Now, there are several that I love. Many of them could have made my mountain. I know a lot of them get a lot of diss over the last couple seasons. The first few seasons, everybody was really high on everything. But this particular one that I'm going to talk about brought one of my favorite comic book characters to life that I had never seen on the big screen. I'm going with Moon Knight. And gosh, did I love this show. It's one of the reasons I love Moon Knight. Moon Knight brings in the mythical lore or the mythology, if you will, of the ancient Egyptian religion, right? And Moon Knight is a guy who's actually a pretty bad guy. He's kind of a mercenary. He's kind of doing bad things, and he gets brought back to life by some of the Egyptian gods. And once he's given that life, he ends up becoming a hero. But the whole idea is he's multiple personalities. So he's got who he is at Moon Knight. He's got who he is as his normal character, and then you find out there's another split in between that they're creating, like where he kind of spaces out. He doesn't realize he's done things, but all of this brought back to life on Disney Plus through the first season or so has been just mind blowing. I love it. It made me want to start getting some of the Moon Knight comics. I remember as a kid, I was collecting the comic cards, and I had the Moon Knight card, and I always just loved him. He's supposed to be Marvel's answer to Batman. I see the parallels, but he's really a lot different. There's a lot of parallels in the idea of like lots of gadgets and things, and he's rich beyond belief for certain reasons. But he actually does have powers. And he actually does kill, and he does a couple other things. So I know, Andy, this is probably a blind spot for you for sure because you don't kind of do these things. But I'm going to go with my first Marvel property. I could have gone a lot of ways, especially some of the high ones. But I want to introduce the Summit Squad to one of my favorites, Moon
Knight. So two things. It's not a blind spot. I did watch it. I'll say this, though, about that. And again, I wasn't a big comic book kid, so I mean, I know there was a lot of blind spots when it came to that. But there's always these things that come out and they're like, "Oh man, I loved it," and then you go look and it's like 1947 they debuted. I'm like, I've never even heard of this character before. Like, there's just all that kind. And Moon Knight was one of those guys, and I think he's been around for quite some time. When I did that research, I liked it, but I guess because I had no kind of nostalgia tie into it, because nostalgia is always very important, that. I appreciate it. The show was cool. It was entertaining.
I really had a lot of wonder about Moon Knight. Like, I loved the character. I didn't own a whole lot of the comic books. There was never him in the cartoons, never him in the movies, and I always was very intrigued. And when it came out, it was what I was hoping for, and it got high ratings.
Yeah. Also, you said X-Men. You picked X-Men. This is not your first Marvel. You've got two Marvel picks already.
No. Marvel live action. The first one was
okay. I got you.
Yeah, the Marvel live action.
You're Marvel heavy right now.
I'm Marvel heavy.
But
I am Marvel heavy.
Yeah.
This was. No, I apologize. I meant the Marvel live action. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. No, this is good. I liked it. It was, again, it's another dark one. It's another pretty,
Yeah, we're kind of dark heavy. Halloween Town, Descendants, Moon
Gargoyles.
Knight, Gargoyles, and even X-Men. That's our series
97.
had a few dark.
Yeah.
We're kind of dark heavy.
and Recess, man. Whenever that new kid comes in, it's real.
The bully or whatever. So yeah, let's see. IMDb. So
It's dark and
while I'm
everything.
pulling that up, did you like it?
No, yeah, I've given every Marvel one I've given a shot. I actually did enjoy it. It was kind of cool to see that, like you said, the mythology was cool. I like the coloring in the show as well. But it was kind of cool to be introduced to a new character again. Like
I
Andy
love
said,
the
I
Ethan
had
Hawke
never
bad
heard of
guy
him.
as well.
Yeah, the bad guy too.
He was cool. I love that when he plays different characters. Moon Knight, like, is in a suit or he's in like a mummy outfit, like kind of.
Yeah,
But yeah,
and I think he did a great job as the portrayal. Jeez, the words.
and my goodness, what is Oscar Isaac not in? I mean, like,
Right?
I feel like he is becoming, him along with The Rock have been like the main go-to. Like, we need Oscar Isaac on this, or if we want it to be the best. I mean, he's
Yep.
been in everything. He probably went over the last 6 years from like a nobody to, making a couple 100,000 as a little small time,
Right.
whatever, to being like the richest guy in Hollywood. I mean, he's been
Most
everything.
wanted,
He's getting
yeah.
royalties from everywhere. It's
Yep.
crazy.
Every
So
franchise.
IMDb says 7.3 for the meter, and Rotten Tomatoes is coming up, but yeah, it's probably going to be low. Oh no! Wow, 86% from
Wow.
the critics, 89% from the audience. So that was just season 1. Which the new season I think they signed up for 2 more seasons. Hopefully, we'll see it grow a little bit more and kind of see the new characters. I love when the hippopotamus came out. That was kind of funny. Everybody was kind of, yeah. Anyways, all right. So that's the first half of the Mountain Live. But we want to let you guys know about a couple other things we got going on. First and foremost, we are not a Christian podcast, but we are not a Christian podcast because we are a Christian channel. That makes a whole bunch of sense to you. You'll understand that this is our love for pop culture and hanging out with our friends, but we are pastors at heart on the other side. And if you ever have questions or you want to chat about those things, I would direct you guys to a couple spaces. You can always comment in the bottom. You can always go to our Discord or any of the other social medias and DM us. Speaking of that, we need to roll that banner down below there, Andy, for everybody. Let me put that there. So all of our stuff is scrolling down at the bottom if you want to connect with us. And on top of that, you come visit us. September 14th and 15th, we are going to be at RetroCon. And Louisiana RetroCon is just a convention that we hang out with. Davey has invited us. Davey's been on the show. And we get to do what we call reboot. Let's check this out.
Prepare to make the jump to light speed.
They're getting closer.
Oh, yeah? Watch this.
Yeah, so we're going to be preaching just a quick message on nerd or geekdom. Could be about Disney. Who knows? We do have the Five Nights at Freddy's guys coming back to the con that we know. We'll hang out with them. But if you love that and you're connecting with us because of that, we've got something else on our front page called Nerd in the Word. Let me give you this. So we are doing Nerds in the Word devotions down. All right. Our last guys we want to focus on are our friends up here, Culture Box. Culture Box is 6 or 7 of our Christian creator friends that invited us to be a part of a family, much like our friends Modern Day Breakfast Club and Spine Ticks, Paul and the 619, Vogs and Chance and and even DJ, whenever they have communities, we just jump in. These guys have been welcoming us from the beginning. And Andy, we would love to highlight them with this video trailer. Check our guys out right now.
The Untold Podcast is a speculative fiction podcast utilizing the genres of sci-fi, fantasy, and horror, among others, in order to engage the culture's imagination from a Christian worldview. Every month, Nathan James Nolan produces and narrates a new story, presented in a unique and dynamic way. Check out the Untold Podcast at untoldpodcast.com to listen and leave them a review on Apple Podcasts.
Man, I am so excited that we now have these amazing trailers for you all to love, and go and let those friends know where you found them. If you go to any of the guys we've mentioned today, tell them where you found them. And this is a great time for me to tell you, if you're following along, you are now what we would consider a part of the Summit Squad. And the Summit Squad is just our fans in our community. Welcome. This is for you. Being a part of the Summit Squad is real easy. There's no cover charge. There's no things that we require you to do. But what we ask is, if you're here, just say hello. Hit the like, because that always helps the algorithm. Subscribe is always a good thing. But more importantly, if you comment down below, you're watching this Disney Channel TV series of What's Your Rushmore. Put your top 4 TV Rushmores in the comments. And then when you go check out any of our content, which is best to go to our playlist to find that, because we have put in a lot of work towards the playlist to help narrow down what everybody loves. So there's a video game one, there's a movie one, there's a TV one, go in there, and when you start watching as a Summit Squad member, let us know your top 4. Now, Andy, it is time to get to the second part of this mountain. We have done all the commercials. We have bled that out. We need to jump back into 2024, where commercials are where we just skip. And we're going to go into the second half of the mountain.
If you pay for it.
Andy, we are to James. James, you are going to do our link, short for Lincoln. Number 2 on your mountain. What you got?
All right, so my Lincoln, it might hit a few nerves, but I know there's a lot of fans of it. It ran from October of 2011 to May of 2018, and it kind of introduces the stories to people and these fairy tales. Once Upon a Time, that was on ABC and Disney.
I mentioned it earlier.
My aunt and uncle off the wall and their son, and then once I started dating my wife, we continued watching it and enjoyed it. I'm a Disney lover, she's a Disney lover, and it was just kind of cool to see. Some of them were good, some of them were bad, but the live action of each of these characters that a lot of friends and family members love since childhood just coming to life, and seeing how Disney, ABC, and all of them put it together. It was just really cool to see live action of them.
Yeah, this is going. You mentioned it before, Kirk. Yeah, what do you think about it?
I mentioned it, and I'm gonna be honest. I have maybe seen 2 episodes, but main reason is my kids. Karsyn and my wife were kind of watching it for a little bit, and Andy, this is just a pet peeve of mine, and my wife asks me all the time, "Hey, let's watch a show together." And it drives me crazy, because here's the deal. When I watch my shows, I want to watch them in consecutive, like 1, 2, 3. And then my next block of time, I watch 1, 2, 3. My wife will run this stuff in the background all the time. And once she starts going ahead of me, and I lose interest, because I'm like, all right, you ran out. And so this is one of those type of shows where they didn't ask me to be a part. When I came in, they were like 2 seasons in, or they're half a season in, and I was like, nah, I'll catch up. But in the backlog, I never pulled this off. And so while it was actually running back in the day, we weren't watching. That wasn't one of the things I was watching. but it is something that is on my list to watch because I can value, or I can give it props for what it's there, and it has high reviews. But there's also the haters, like you mentioned, James. So there's some people out there that are gonna be like, no, that's you know,
Yeah.
I love the new spin. I love the new spin, and I appreciate the spin.
I think it's good. It's you mentioned it when we talked about Descendants, but it's kind of a fresh take on something, right?
Mhm.
On a classic, which is always a cool. I just like that. We talked about it a long time ago with Kaab. We talked about reboots, and Disney has done quite a few reboots, and not that I would necessarily consider this a reboot, but they've done a lot of these, either backstories or kind of retellings of different things,
Yeah.
and Disney does really well at that. I mean, they've got the best writers probably in the world working for
Mhm.
them. So, but yeah, this is good. I did not watch this consistently. I've seen episodes, but to your point, Kirk, my wife and I have a list of shows that we'll never watch apart from each other, right? And then we
Nice.
have our own kind of fringe shows that, like, if I catch an episode or two, I don't really care, things like that. And so there's definitely, I understand your point there.
Look, Once Upon a Time is real consistent. Rotten Tomatoes on both meters,
Yeah.
78%.
78.
Yep.
And then on the IMDb, 7.7. So really close out of 10. So it's a 77%. Really close. Very consistent. Very consistent. All right, Andy, you're up.
Yep. All right. So for my next trick, I will turn into James. For my next pick, for my link, I'm surprised it took this long, but here we go. I'm crushmoring with James. Give me Reset. Shows that as they were happening, I was consistently watching. Recess was one of them that I was definitely watching through. Here's what I think of Recess, and I've mentioned this before. Broken record. I'm a big Nickelodeon fan. One of my favorite Nickelodeon shows of all time was Hey Arnold. Recess felt like the Hey Arnold for Disney. Now I know it's a different concept and it's different, but it felt like these inner city kids, from a kid's point of view, them telling the story. That's what it felt like to me. Similar animation in a sense, but again, that's what it felt like. So I always loved Recess. I loved Recess as a kid. They reminded me too, like having this whole like group of friends cartoon was always cool. They reminded me of the BK kids. If you guys millennials remember Burger King kids, they reminded me very much of that kind of, almost like, if you want to go back to even like Fat Albert, like had that group of friends kind of deal. Hey Arnold had the group of friends. Like, that was that. A Fat Albert. Anyway, that's an Office reference. Recess though is so good. I like your point of having TJ Detweiler as your TJ Jazzy Jeff, but I didn't do that. I moved him to my link, so I don't know what else I can how I can make that there. One of my favorite things though. Again,
I never saw this, but yeah, the BK Kids Club looks like they came right out of Recess.
Recess, right? It always made me think of that.
Except for the fact that Kid Vid, which is the main guy, has these weird sunglasses that look futuristic. But everybody else, especially Jaws, this guy.
Yep.
I mean, that guy looks like he came right off the show.
Yeah. They were very similar in that. But I'll say this too. One of my favorite, you said it all, Kirk. It was like from the kids' point of view, like what do they see Recess as? And they've got all this, the hierarchy of the government. They've got the chief and all that stuff. But I love when they show the kindergartners or like the preschoolers, and they're like these savage natives or whatever that are just like,
yeah, that's
like,
great. That is great.
It's so funny, and the fact and it's
now,
heightened and it's elevated. Go ahead.
Now remind me, both of you guys seen this show. This show is I was probably high school when this came out, so I was probably not watching it then. I've caught it since with my kids, which happens a lot with 90s cartoons. especially the later 90s, early 2000s, I'll catch them with my kids and be like, yeah, I really appreciate this. Just the kid and the nerd and geek in me. But at the time when this was coming out, it was probably not a go-to for me. I'm 10 years older than you, and James, how old are you?
30. Jesus, it's gonna be 35 in August.
30
Sorry.
Jesus. You're 35, so you and Andy are both the same
Gonna
age.
be
So
35.
This makes a whole
James,
lot of sense. See, I'm
James,
like 10 years ahead.
When's your birthday in August? Because I'm 35 in August too.
August 17th.
What?
I'm August 11th. I'm August 11th. How cool is that?
Wow, y'all are like
Yeah.
a week apart. My sister's
Yeah,
birthday is
yeah.
on August 17th. So,
Oh, nice.
anyway, and I'm August 29th there, James. So, then I'll make 46. I don't know. Yeah, 46. I'll make 46. Yeah, 46.
But
So,
I'll say this too.
you guys
What's
said
funny?
you
What's
said
funny about
35, I
this
was like,
show?
I'm making 45.
What's
Didn't
funny
you?
about this show is that we say that it's like, exaggerated and stuff from a kid's point of view, but as a kid, like that's what you see a lot of this as. Like there's the hierarchy, there's like the do's and the don'ts of the recess field. Like that kind of stuff is real in our perspective. And obviously it's a
Now, I
cartoon.
will
There's a
say
little
this,
exaggeration, but yeah.
Andy, what I can value about the show, and I was about to say this in mine, is this is the perspective of a 90s, even maybe 80s recess kid.
Mhm.
When we were kids, imagination was very high on the hierarchy of needs, right? It like and that's like the third time we've said hierarchy, which is funny. It's one of the things that all of us had. That's what makes us nerds and geeks and people at heart. Like we would go outside with next to nothing and find something to do. It would be interesting to see a 2024 idea of recess with them all walking around with their tablets and phones and whatnot. Because there is no real imagination happening with my kids. Like when my kids, when I'm like talking about the book I'm writing, they're like, "How did you think of that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, because I have an imagination. You dream,
Imagination.
right?" What else I was going to say is that's kind of what you're seeing. You're not just seeing the preschoolers, you're seeing them as, these tyrants. Now, remind me, you mentioned Hey Arnold. Hey Arnold had like this indoor layer or something, right? He had like did Recess have a spot where they kind of like disappeared under the recess, or they went somewhere like in the gym, and there was like something special, like kind of like a clubhouse of sort? Didn't they have something in that show?
Yeah. So I gotta pull up
Ashley's Clubhouse. It's the mountain of tires. The mountain of tires.
That's it. The mountain of tires. It was in the top. Yeah. I was like, they always would go somewhere, and then they would kind of have their like boat, like away from the teachers or whatever.
Yeah, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Well, let me jump to my next one, guys. I'm still baffled. You guys only have one more pick left, and there was so much left. And I guess it's just the 80s kid in me. But I'm going to go with, this time, I'm going to go with a live action again, but on the Star Wars side. And Andy, you mentioned it before the show, and it probably is going to show up. I'm going with my boy Grogu. I'm going with Mando, the Mandalorian. There he is. Yeah.
There he is, Mando.
Yeah, I'm a huge Star Wars guy. You're a huge Star Wars guy. We talk about it all the time. One of my favorite things about going to Star Wars this time was the Star Wars universe and going there. And Cannon got him a Poe helmet. He got him a lightsaber. He was able to build a saber. We're huge Star Wars folks here. I would like to say I'm even bigger, but with that being said, segue. Next week we're having General Kenobi's Bunker come on. He's got 2 different channels. Go follow both of them. One's Spanish, one's American. Even if you're not Spanish speaking or vice versa, go sub them both. Support him. Dude, he just hit 6,000 subscribers last night, which is funny. He's getting about 500 subscribers a week. he is blowing up like spine ticks, like Bert, like all these guys that are just growing crazily. I'm like, what's the trick? What are you doing? Anyways, we're going to talk to him about it next week, but we're going to go top 4 Jedi. Now, let me go back. Mandalorian. It's like a spaghetti western meets science fiction television show. If you like Firefly, it kind of pulls a lot from there. But it is it's the second highest rated thing on my on my list, and it gets an 8.7, an 8.7 in the IMDb. I don't know what it is, Rotten Tomatoes. You guys can look that up if you want. But great story. It's tying in a whole bunch of things. It brings in it brings in a bunch of shows, including Boba Fett, which is one of my favorite characters. It brings in just this whole idea of the Mandalorians. The dark saber is being introduced. I'm waiting to see where it goes, because where it fits in the timeline, there's some people that aren't here, some people that are. Everybody's kind of wondering what Grogu ends up being. Is that going to be the tie-off to kind of circumvent the new universe afterwards? And in the time that this show is coming out, Acolyte, another show, has just come out, and I haven't put that on the list because we're projecting in the future, but we should have some reboots coming out on that as well. So I tied in a whole bunch of stuff, but Star Wars, one of my top favorites, my favorite live action is Mandalorian, which then introduced all these other ones. There's another one. Actually, there's 2 more that I have on my Benjamins that I hope at least make the list today. But this was my favorite. Gonna go Mando.
It's had to make the list. It's so good. For various reasons, it didn't make my list today, and I know I still have a pick left, so I maybe sort of spoiler alert there, but no hate on this pick. It would have been on my Benjamins, but obviously this started it all. As far as like these, Star Wars series, and I maybe not started it all. We have some origins back before that, but this really is where they perfected it.
There's a lot of cartoons and stuff that are in the TV show world for Star Wars. This is kind of the first attempt at bringing the silver screen to our television screen, and it was highly.
So good.
That first season. That first season was
slow.
Was like so well welcomed. People were like, "What's happening? What's going on? Where are we going?" Mm-hmm. The music. Like, I feel like he should be wearing spurs on his.
Yeah.
I feel like when he goes into the bar room and the old saloons, it just feels very cool. I love it.
I'll say too, though, it's so good that Boba Fett was not that good that when they brought in Mando, it became better.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of the Boba Fett series as much. I mean, it's okay, but Mando is for sure superior. They had a lot of good series that came out, and again, some may be mentioned in Benjamins and things like that. But there's a lot of some really good Star Wars series.
Okay, you mentioned it, brought it out. You mentioned it. You brought it out. Boba Fett is definitely on my Benjamins. I don't know that it makes it today because I have a lot of other Benjamins. I love Boba Fett, but half of the first season was Mandalorian.
Yeah. Once he came on, it was Mandalorian. It was another Mandalorian 2.5 or whatever.
Yeah, 2.5.
Yeah. And
they were trying to segue like, hey, everybody watch this show too.
Yeah.
Disney's trying to make that money.
That's what they're doing, and they're good at it. So yeah.
Now, I'm super interested where we go this next season, and
plus they got the movie coming out.
And I was going to say that we got movie coming out. We're the Star Wars universe has caught a lot of flack over the last 10 years since being under Disney. But what's funny to me is the 10 years prior to that, they caught flack. And now that 10 years of time is praised because of what happened in the Disney world.
Yep.
I'm worried that in the next set, that this section is going to be praised by our kids. And I don't dislike any of it. I accept all of it as canon I do scratch my head on a few things, but I love, again, going back, I love seeing my childhood come to life in different ways, and I just want to be entertained, and I was entertained. I was entertained. I don't pick it apart like that. All right, so look, we're to the George.
Woo.
James,
Well,
what is
hold
your
on.
favorite?
Hold on. To tack on to that, sorry if you have to edit it. Because basically, to me, what you were just saying is it's just like wrestling. I think you kind of watch wrestling or follow wrestling. No, yes, right. Okay,
Yeah.
I want to make sure.
Wait. So let me just say this, so you can restart. Just we've done wrestling on our show several times. We actually have some wrestlers coming on our show.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I wanted to make sure.
And wrestling we usually review in either the nostalgia coming up or sports. So yeah. Hold on.
Nice. Both of you are gonna bust everything out, and I don't have any right now.
And this is not the wrestling one but got Slaughter.
All right.
He's got. There you go. You got that one.
I know. Edit whatever you got to edit, but here, this is mine.
All right, so bring it in.
Nice.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we're wrestling fans. We're wrestling, especially the old wrestling.
To tack on to what you were saying, to me about the Star Wars and most of the Disney good and bad, it's just like wrestling with the heel. If they're talking about you, they're still talking about you, whether it's good or bad.
That's good. Yeah,
it catches flack. It doesn't catch flack. They're talking about it, and people are watching it. And then you get all these people, oh, well, that's not good. And you have to watch it to judge for yourself, or vice versa. Oh, this is good. No, it's not that good. They're still talking about it.
There's a lot of fandoms out there, and I think just with it being a fandom, this is just going to come with the territory. But there's not many more annoying fandoms than there is the Star Wars fandom. As far as you're not supposed to like this, blah blah blah.
You got so many gung ho people.
Like what you like and get into it, and
with
hate
that
what you
being
want to
said,
hate. I don't care.
Maybe Kenobi watches this show, but I have visited Kenobi's show quite a bit, and there are some super fans over there. They know everything. So we might get schooled next week, Andy.
It's going to be a good show.
We will.
It's going to be a good show.
They know everything. I mean, they're writing stuff out that I'm like, didn't even know that. Didn't even know.
Oh, wow.
So we're talking top 4 Jedi. If you guys are Star Wars guys, or you want to know a little history, you probably show up the next week.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So Andy, it's time to do our George.
Oh,
and James, you're up.
So my George, for my first time on your show, thank you. I'm going to spit a little bit of knowledge then. So first, originally came out, I believe, ABC. Sequel was only on Disney. The original ran from September of 1993 to May of 2000. The sequel ran from June of 2014 to January of 2017. I'm going with the Boy Meets World franchise. Had missed a bunch. Great show, I think. Learned a lot of things. Some things were bad, some things were good. And then once dating my wife and we got married, we started watching the sequel because she watched it as a kid too. And it was for the girls out there for Girl Meets World. So it was from the girls' perspective. So I thought it was really, really good. They hit a lot of topics for those the TGIF Friday runs at the time. A lot of good, a lot of bad, different topics that they'd hit up. I thought the story was there, and I know a lot of young gentlemen and maybe some women fell in love with Topanga as a kid.
Let's go.
So I thought it was a really good franchise. They wrote and hit some good topics, and that's going to be my George of the day.
Yeah, this was one of those ones that for sure is widely loved. I mean, I don't know. You can't meet many people from our generation that really weren't impacted or enjoyed Boy Meets World. Feeney, like Mr. Feeney and just all that. Yeah.
91% audience score, does not have a critic score. 8.1 IMDb.
8.1.
Boy Meets World. So again, this is this is my high school time. I was probably watching things I shouldn't be watching at this point. Topanga, I know, is a lot of. You always see that meme, right? Especially from the '90s. It's like got Topanga. It's got the Pink Ranger. It's got a few
Kimberly
others.
Hart.
Yep. Yeah. This is a '90s boys' first crush or whatever. But I watched this show kind of sporadically. Like if you catch it on, when I was home getting some lunch, I might throw it on. I did not follow the show, but back then, those sitcoms, if you will, you could pick up a show and watch later and come back. So I saw a few of these. Didn't really follow it religiously, I guess, throughout the whole thing, but I did catch the finale, and that last episode, bro, that's a tearjerker.
Oh, God.
Mr. Feeney.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Dude.
Also,
that's
speaking of Mr. Feeney, William Daniels still alive and kicking it at 97.
90.
Andy, what are you doing? What are you doing? Hey, so
I know. This comes out in a couple weeks.
There is a bit of a Rushmore curse. When we mention people, it happens to R.I.P.
If this happens,
Listen,
if this
Andy,
happens,
if we, look, I'm leaving this in if it happens before now in the show, because this has happened before.
Oh my gosh.
We did it to Betty White. We did it to the Pro Bowl. We did it to the Choco Taco. There's been a couple things that we've had a part apparently to do with.
So Betty's no longer with us because of you?
Tomorrow.
Funny story. Maybe I don't know if you want to cut this out.
James,
now,
if there's
just to
breaking
fill
news,
James
William Daniels, Mr. Feeney dies. You know where it came from.
Yeah.
Betty White is no longer here because of you.
So episode like 2 or 3, or somewhere up there, we were celebrating. We were doing TV show intros or something like that, and it was Golden Girls, and it was coming up on her 100th birthday, and we pre-recorded like this, a couple weeks in advance, and I'm out there in Georgia, and we literally in our intro we sing Happy Birthday to Betty White. We have a cupcake, we have a candle, we do the whole deal. We have to do the whole thing. I'm still out there, and I'm shopping with my wife. We're over at the mall, and it comes across my phone, and this was like 2 weeks before, something like that. And, she passes away 2 weeks before her 100th birthday. It was really close to her 100th birthday.
Yeah.
And so then if you go back to our episode, you can watch it. And the intro is obviously recorded at night. And the rest of the episode is recorded during the day because we're in front of Kirk's window and you could see that it's darker outside. Also, if you see our little banner down here, we had to throw in a banner last minute because the same pants that we were wearing when we recorded were no longer, it was like already packed up or whatever. So we're wearing like shorts. It's all kinds of crazy. It's all kinds of crazy. So anyway, we had that's what started it all. But the Pro Bowl, the NFL Pro Bowl got ended after we talked about it. Choco Taco.
And there's one more.
Yeah.
Funny.
Anyway,
it's crazy.
Sorry, Mr. Feeney. Hope your health. We'll be praying for you. Love this show. Great pick, man. Not on my Benjamins because it just wasn't nostalgic to me, but I had a feeling it might even be on both of yours. So
yeah, it was a Benjamin. It was a Benjamin.
Got one more pick. Kind of think I know where he might be going, but we'll see.
Do you?
Ooh.
I mean, there's about 4 or 5 things I would expect have already been on your list, and they haven't been picked. So we'll see. We'll see. Anyways, Andy, let's hear where you're going.
All right, 3, 2, 1. All the way back, Kirk, to your Rosie. We're going X-Men 97. At first, I was hesitant because if you have so much nostalgia into something, you're like, gosh, are they going to ruin it? But they knocked it out of the park. It is so good. I love the animation style. Obviously, this illusion, it's paying homage to this 97 and that series that we all love. Everything that you said about it, Kirk, too. I don't know if it was just because I was a kid or just whatever. But like, I don't remember the storylines being as complex, and maybe it's because of the continuity and stuff that you talked about. Like, there's a lot more continuity between episodes now, but it's so beautifully written. It does all the right things. Even when they kill off characters that you love, you still go back to watch it and you love it. Everything you said about it, man. The voice acting's perfect. I like the newer kind of spins on things. Like, there's a little bit that they add to it, but they still hold true to that classic 90s cartoon that we're used to. And I'm just glad they did not change the intro. You know, obviously some of the animation's a little different on the intro.
Actually, they change it every single time.
Well, they do, but what I meant is like the theme song is still the. It's still that.
Right, but like sometimes you see Professor X, sometimes you see Magneto, sometimes you see somebody else,
and
in fact alludes to what happened.
Right.
Yeah. So that's as much a part of the show as the show is, right? Because based on the clips that they show, you're like, this is where we're going, and you don't realize it until after. Mm-hmm. Like, bringing in Cable is fantastic. The way that this season ended, you know, when we had the time travel, we have some in the future, some in the past, and you've got Apocalypse that's coming up, and like, you've got all of these just amazing things. I was not as much a fan as Morph, not because I didn't care for Morph. Like, I felt like he shapeshifted a lot just so they could throw in a cameo. It was for no, it was okay. It's okay, but like, I wish they would have done more with Morph. I feel like even more, like, but maybe they will. They'll continue. Mm-hmm. I love Nightcrawler. I love the fact that Nightcrawler's in there, and he is just as awesome as he should be because he's a fantastic character.
How about how he's the priest?
The priest?
He's the priest, right? And I love the German, that they kept the German accent. They did all of that kind of
Definitely.
stuff. It is beautiful. And I'll say this. I don't hate Jubilee as much as I did in the 90s.
Right.
I still think she has a kind of pointless power in the overall scheme of X-Men. But you know, if I want a fireworks show, then I'll call Jubilee up. Anyway, but she's actually kind of cool in this one. Rogue is a lot deeper than I remember her being. You know, as far as a central figure to this story, which I like that they did because.
I remember in the old show there being complaints that Rogue wasn't as strong as she should have been. Like, because Rogue is really OP when it comes to this universe. She has a lot. Absolutely. She has a lot of things happening. She's no Jean Grey, but she sure is no slouch. And in the original stuff, it's really kind of, a lot of times they were just like, just don't touch her, right?
You know?
But now, when she comes out and she's mad about all the things that happened,
man.
And then
I'll say this. Yeah, I'll say this too, though. Like, I appreciate how wide range this show is in the sense of like, it's not just about Wolverine. It's not just about Cyclops. Like, we've got a lot about, now there's a lot of Jean Grey, kind of that clone and all that Mr. Sinister stuff. But even in that, there's a lot of character development in a short one season so far for each person individually. And there's going to be even more, which is just exciting too. So what I thought was
really cool is how they did Storm.
Oh, dude. Watching that clip gave me freaking chills with the way they did that when they Omega level threat.
So I like that they're tapping into
you mentioned cameo. There were a lot of like, so I said Omega Red earlier. You made it this far in the show, and anyways, when they showed Iron Man and Captain America, like, here's the thing: what our kids and some of even us adults won't even realize. Marvel, in the beginning, as a growing company, sold off their properties to try and make money to keep the company going. So Sony had this, and Disney had this, and other people had this, and so they had to try and collect all these back. And Disney has been working hard to try and do this. Having X-Men show up in the live action, like Quicksilver in the live action shows, was like, whoa, he's here. And then you would see a couple other things. And now with Deadpool and Wolverine, that just happened. Seeing all these characters come together was something that we couldn't have back in the day. And so now you're like, where can the stories go now? One of my biggest complaints about Marvel and DC, even in the lifespan of me being a comic book guy, is that Superman, right, from Metropolis, which is New York, right, or Chicago, and then you have, Spider-Man, but they never ran into each other because they're different companies, right?
Mhm.
And then you'd have crossovers. And then so you have to throw all these different universes in. Now we actually get to see the Avengers are there with the mutants and how that actually
Yeah.
happens. Because it's like they're all in the same world, but we can't see them. Like, where is Wolverine right now when this big Avenger thing is happening? So
Yeah.
now we're going to see it. That's
Yeah, it was really
Yep.
cool.
that is
So,
really cool.
speaking of cameo, what about the Spider-Man in there?
Yeah,
The Spider-Man and Mary Jane.
mentioning Iron Man and Captain America, Spider-Man, I think
Yeah.
Black
you're
Panther. Black
seeing
Panther's in this
You're
one.
seeing all the
Yeah.
Avengers kind of come together, which is just building that thing. And then I'm sure we'll see stuff like Moon Knight. I'm sure we're going to see everybody. Like I know they're working that this is going to be the thing to bring it all together. I know that's what they're trying to do.
Mhm.
I've been kind of following in the background. There's a lot of really cool stuff, and then the very end scene of the finale brings in Thanos, right? The only
Mhm.
guy that could possibly hang out with Thanos, in my opinion. They bring him in at the very end, and now we get to do the Cable Bishop show with one of the biggest baddies in comic books. So that's going to be really cool to see how that all works out because they
Right.
destroyed that movie. Everybody hated that.
Yeah.
And so hopefully the cartoon kind of fixes some of those things. And even that movie, I enjoyed it. I remember watching it at youth with you, Andy. That was at
Mhm.
the very first event you ever showed up at the lock-in. We watched that movie. Anyways,
Yeah.
Nice.
I'll jump into my George, I guess. And Andy, I mentioned new cartoon. I mentioned Marvel property as far as live action, Star Wars property as far as live action. I'm going with old cartoon, and I'm going back to the Disney 2 hour period that I was going to say. I've been having one hang out behind me the whole time, but I'm not doing that one. I'm going with the one with the best opening soundtrack. I'm going with DuckTales. From when I was
Yeah.
a
Nice.
kid.
Yeah.
Nice.
And got the video game. I love that. But listen, this was my jam. I mean, everybody knows the song. It's like Fresh Prince's song, right? Dun, 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 dun. Life is like a.
Hurricane.
There we go.
Here in
Here is
Duckburg.
Listen,
Duckburg.
and then they redid it. They redid it, the new one. And listen, which is crazy, the new one actually has higher scores on IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes. But I watched the new one. I loved it, new animation style. But the old one is a classic. I mean, it paved the way for so many cartoons, including the one that's hanging out in the video game behind me. But other ones from that same period. Andy, I know there's one that you absolutely love the movie for. There's a show that this DuckTales is the one that did it, right? You got Scrooge McDuck, you got his three nephews, you got Donald show up every once in a while, you got Gizmo and all the baddies, you got the mob, whatever, and he's always trying to find the money. He's got his dime, he swims in the coins. And this is one of those things. Our kids, Andy, James, will never understand what it was like to uh, wake up on a Monday, watch cartoons for a half an hour before you go to school, come back, and get your homework out and watch cartoons for another hour and a half on an after school dealio with maybe a TV show here or there. And then Saturday mornings having a 2-3 hour block of cartoons. And that was it. You didn't get to just randomly watch cartoons all day staring at a screen. You didn't get to randomly watch your shows. And so you followed these things back in the day. And DuckTales is a gem to me. And no pun intended, but it's a gem. I mean, to me, it's a gem 10. It's got great movies, great properties. One thing that I always kind of wondered about is why Scrooge isn't bigger than he is at Disney World. Like you never see any of those properties whenever I go. Barely see Donald, sometimes Daisy. But the that whole show is perfect. I love it. And
Yeah,
a
I
lot
knew
of
this was on your
imagination.
list. Yeah, I had this pegged for your number one. This was easy for me. This was an easy pick for you.
Nice.
You've talked about this plenty of times. The theme song is a huge part of it, but I mean that show is it's so good. I will say that what I found, a lot of these shows at this time. Now, hear this out. They didn't last very long,
Mhm.
or at least season wise. Like a lot of these shows maybe ran a year or two. Like overall, like you look at like. Again, I'm going to mention one that may get mentioned later, but it's okay. You can still mention it. It's not picked here. But like Rescue Rangers, right? Like that was like 7 months. Like that show lasted. Like I looked at it. I'm like, holy moly! But on the flip side of it, seasons back in the day were like 35 episodes. Like today, it's like 8, 10. You got like things like that. So there's a little bit of difference in there. But one reason or the other, they just didn't last super long, and it could have been budget, whatever, all kinds of different things. Disney was in a different place then too. But to your point about like you don't see a lot of these things, I think that Disney, with the times, has to start updating their, because like I said, our kids, this is not necessarily their nostalgia. DuckTales. Now there's the new rendition, which is going to be in that for sure. But we talk about, and there's multiple reasons that this happened, but Splash Mountain changing its theme to Princess and the Frog, right? Like this is going to connect more with the generations to come. You talk about the Guardians of the Galaxies and the Trons, and now Tron is a reboot, right? But it's still now contemporary. These things are going to be updated, and to kind of last over time is what I think too. So
with that said, which is funny, just throwing this out there, the original DuckTales, 4 seasons, it got an 8. The next DuckTales, which ran 3 seasons, got an 8.3. And there's a lot of stuff brought back. Several like awards here. The new DuckTales got 23 different award nominations. Right, the other one only had like 4. But yeah, it's you're talking about reinventing those things, and it's true. I love seeing that kind of come back. 94% of Google users love this show. 94%.
there you go.
The new one. It's crazy. All right, man. So look. Well, first off, James, do you have any ties to the old, Disney cartoons?
To the old ones, yeah. I actually did not originally watch the DuckTales series. I saw the movie first. Did not know it was a series. I think it was Magical Lamp or something like that.
Yeah, DuckTales, the movie, The Magical Lamp, which I was just looking at right here.
I thought it DuckTales, and at that time Alvin and the Chipmunk movie. Those were the 2 movies I watched a lot, and then I realized they were series. Again, didn't know any better.
I love Launchpad.
That song is
Gizmo. Just. I love Launchpad. Launchpad was awesome.
That's his name.
Launchpad was a nickname of mine when I was a kid.
You were mentioning the names. I'm like, what's the pilot's name? I couldn't remember the pilot's name. Nice.
Yeah.
Launchpad. Yeah. So Launchpad was cool, and people nicknamed me Launchpad as a kid because they said my head was so big you can launch a helicopter off it.
Nice.
So that was a fun one. Now we have our Benjamin's time. So, All right, guys, our mountain is done, and it is time to go to our second segment, our Benjamin segment, and this is our honorable mentions. Let's do our all about the Benjamins, and see what missed the mountain. All right, guys, you know how this goes. This is a fantasy draft, if you will, of what's left. It's not a big conversation. It's just another way to kind of show a light to everything that is out there that we can do, that we missed. Let's get this party started. James, you're up. Now, remember, we can't mention anything that's been mentioned. So this is all just brand new stuff to show what we should still be talking.
All right. No particular order or anything, right? Just mention.
You just give one right now. Yeah.
Whatever you mention here. This is. So you're perfectly right. Let's go. one of the things that we like to tell our guests, remember, if you say, well, so let's say something. Say I already said Mandalorian. Say it wasn't mentioned. You know that Andy and I probably are going to take Mandalorian, and you have a list. You probably want to say the ones that we're going to say so that you can keep your list rolling. Because if you don't say it and we take it, then you have to kind of come up with some more obscure things.
Okay.
So it's kind of a little gamesmanship of trying to figure out how to make your list better than everybody else's. But for instance, I'm going to hang out more in the 80s, 90s. You guys will hang out in the 90s, 2000. So there might be something that you're going to say that Andy wants. And so that's kind of how that fits.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Just because once you say it, nobody else can say it.
All right.
So, James,
so my first Benjamin, I guess, is going to be Disney's universe, if you will, or multiverse, having everybody in one restaurant, if you will. Disney's House of Mouse.
Nice. All right,
just seeing all the characters interact in different ways was just awesome.
Yeah, this is cool. That's a good one. That's a good one.
That's a really good one.
All right. Well, I really wanted to get this one in my list, and I'm glad it fell to me here. As a 90s, 2000s kid, this was for sure had to be on there. Call me, beat me if you want to reach me. It's Kim Possible. Kim Possible, yeah. Nice. I love that. That show's so good.
And what other cartoon has a naked mole rat?
None of them.
Naked mole.
And there should be more out there, but
I mean, maybe there should be more. All right, man. I got a long list for Benny's. I didn't put them in order, but what I'm gonna try and do is stay true to what I was originally doing, and bring out my second one if it's there, or your third if it's there. So, I'm gonna go with my next favorite Marvel live action, and I'm going with Loki, the Loki series. Fantastic show. I loved Loki before the movies. I loved him even more after the movies. Tom Hiddleston, but I love him even more now watching the actual television show. Fantastic. Now, for my next one, I'm going with my live action Star Wars. That's left, and I am bringing my next favorite Kenobi. Gosh,
yeah, that's a good one. That's so good.
Kenobi, bringing out the sisters and all those things. Listen, this show was way better than it should have been. Actually, this is as good. This is what everybody wants from television. It was almost a perfect show for me.
So I made a bet here on myself. I threw out Kim Possible. I knew you weren't going to pick it. I was like, maybe this one he'll pick. I was glad you didn't. But seeing as like your 80s, 90s, then this I thought pretty safe with this one. This is a relatively new series. As a dad of a 10 and a 7-year-old, you can't escape this. And I'm going Bluey. Give me Bluey.
So, nice. I'm going to say this.
I know it's foreign. It's a different. They've kind of bought the rights to the. I get that.
Yeah. So I was going to say
it's on Disney Plus.
It is on Disney Plus. And last night, as I'm researching, it was the reason that I added. For me, had to be an original Disney thing, because when I clicked on it, I was like, "Wait a second, is Bluey actually Disney?" I know it's on Disney Channel, and I do love Bluey. I haven't watched it as much as I want to, but Bandit's my dude.
It is such a good show. Like, my kids will stop watching it, and I'm still watching it. It's one of those.
James, you don't have kids, right?
No. We have soon to be 10 nieces and nephews.
Yeah, but listen.
So watched Bluey, watched all the Kitty, Disney Junior, all that.
Bluey is about as wholesome and good film for kids as you can get.
As
well as
teenagers and adults. All right, so going off of your Marvel here, it didn't start off well, but I liked it. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It was ABC.
Okay.
I thought you were going to go a different direction, because there's another one I think is really fantastic. Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah. Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. was pretty good.
I'm going to go back and watch that, because it didn't start off great.
No.
I got the first season, and I just never drew my attention back. But I
heard
they kind of
revamped it. Yeah, they kind of revamped it. It did get a little bit better. I thought it was kind of cool to see something that didn't focus on the main heroes, so that was cool. And then I'm gonna go back to Disney Channel original movies. I'm gonna go with Smart House. Before we had all the
Nice.
AI and everything in our houses.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was a fun little movie to watch. See the computer of the house go nuts and want to keep the family as hers and stuff.
Yeah.
That's a
That's
blind
good.
spot for me. I'm pulling it up. I don't even know that.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Peg Bundy is the
Yeah,
Mhm.
so I see that. She's kind of the
Why can I never
Katie
remember her
Seagal.
name?
Katie Seagal. She's playing it.
Thank you.
Kevin Kilner plays the dad. Yeah, I don't know this show. So it's like a technology house.
Yeah, it's basically before we had all the AI and smart houses and stuff, and she's a
Cool.
computer.
It's now called Normal House. Average
Yeah.
house.
Right? Yeah. So
No, that's good.
All
That's
right,
a good
Andy,
pick,
which
man.
one do you think I'm going to pick in my back-to-back? Because
I'm safe with these two picks, and even if you happen to pick this one, I mean, whatever. But I'm going to pick this one now because my fourth one you're absolutely not picking. I'm going to 1997. This one could have been a good pick for a TJ for this reason because the main character's name was TJ Henderson. I'm going Smart Guy. Smart Guy with Taj
nice.
Mowry.
House, the smart guy.
Nice.
Smart guy was so he's a teen, he's like intelligent. He's in high school and all that. Yeah, it's a nostalgia overload there.
Yeah.
Now, is this now normal guy?
This is Common Core guy.
All right, I'm going
anyway.
to another show. Andy, you probably could pick this one if you really thought about it. It's
I thought this was on your list.
I'm going with my newer cartoon. It's not the newest, but it's much newer than the 80s. And Bowling for Soup. I'm going with Phineas and Ferb.
Phineas and Ferb,
104
nice.
days of summer vacation. Dude, I love how witty and amazing this show is. Listen,
What are we gonna do?
it was
today,
my
Ferb?
favorite thing to watch with my kids. Whenever McKenna and Karsyn would want to watch Phineas and Ferb, I'm like, yes. It is
awesome.
like Recess, except instead of it being at recess, it's what kids are doing for their summer break. We're on summer break, and I'm excited about it. So I'm going with Phineas and Ferb. That's my newer one. That's my second favorite newer one. X-Men knocked it off. And then I'm going to finish off with my favorite old that hasn't been mentioned today. We already mentioned, even though I didn't pick it, we've mentioned Darkwing Behind You. You mentioned Chippendale Rescue Rangers in passing. So I'll let those go. But I'm going to come out with my next favorite. And it's one of two. Oh, you mentioned Gargoyles, too. I'm going to do it, man. I'm going to go with Tailspin. And
yes, good one.
Nice.
And look, it's basically the Jungle Book brought to TV with, it's got Launchpad in it sometimes. It's Baloo. And yeah, I love it. I love
they
it.
had their own little
one
universe
more that I
with
missed that I really want to be on here, and it's not. So go ahead.
No, I said that was kind of cool. Their little crossovers that they had with their Disney shows too.
Yeah, they were kind of trying to do that a little bit, but yeah, the Disneyverse.
Yeah. That's a good pick. There's a ton more that we could have put there, but with my last pick, this pick is going to be 100% for my kids. This is a newer kind of sitcom. It's not currently. It's 2016. It lasted 3 seasons. It's had Olivia Rodrigo and Jake Paul. I'm going with Bizaardvark. Bizaardvark is actually, and it's not just for my kids. This is another one of those sitcoms like that they watch on streaming or whatever that I'm watching and I'm actually like into. It's super funny. As being YouTubers, right? That's kind of the whole concept. They're like making videos and they're in this house. It's called Viewgle, but it's their YouTube. It's all about being viral and that whole concept there. But yeah.
I'm just going to go out here and throw it out. It is the lowest ranked IMDb we've talked about yet today.
Oh, I know it is. It's definitely not. But
4.1.
Yeah, it's pretty fun though. Definitely check it out.
Oh, Logan Paul and Jake Paul. Interesting.
Oh wow! Before they were doing other stuff.
So,
Yeah, this
all
is
right,
pre-tattoos and punching people.
with us today, James. And next time, by the way, we need to get your wife on so she can give us these picks.
I'll keep
Bethany,
trying.
when you're watching
I will
this,
definitely keep
really
trying.
get to hear. So, what is your final pick? Your Brock Purdy, if you will, of this? I mean, we can't talk about it anymore, technically.
All right, well, I'm gonna go off the wall here, just because I watched it a lot with my little brother. I watched it with her when we were dating. I'm gonna go Sweet Life of Zach and Cody.
Nice. Wow.
Sweet Life of Zach and Cody and the sequel, Sweet Life on Deck. It was
On Deck,
so
yeah.
cool to see how much trouble people could get into a hotel. You know, it was just
I love this.
some of the wacky
Cool.
stuff they did. It was
Cool
just so cool.
concept.
Cool concept. Yeah, it's just really cool. So I'm gonna finish it with Sweet Life.
Sweet Life of Zach and Cody nails a 6-6, so it didn't drop below Bizarre Bark. So yeah, great pick. I love this. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Summit Squad out there, what did we miss? What's your favorites? What's your top fours? Make sure you go check out all the channels mentioned, everything going on. If you hung out with us this long, welcome to the Summit Squad. Listen, we are nothing without our community. We appreciate every single one of you. We are closing in on that 1,000 subscribers. We are closing in on what we would love to be monetized. We need to get those watch hours up. So if you're out there and you have nothing to do this summer, man, run that playlist for us so that we can get where we need to be and help us out. So, James, thank you for being on the show. This is a fun one. This is exciting. I have such a list. I'll post my list in the comments. You guys post your extras in the comments as well. And happy birthday, Millie. Happy anniversary, Brittany. This is our show today.
Right.
But James, tell us one more time what you've got going on, where people can find you, what's going on, you and your wife's shows. Where will you be lurking if people want to visit?
So it looks like Mondays will be my wife's and/or my show. She goes Crafts by Bethany on all her handles. I'm DJ Wize on my handles. Mondays at 4 p.m. Pacific time would be her show. Tuesdays we have Paul on the 619 and his Amazing Friends show. That's at 5 p.m. Pacific time as well. Those are the two that I know for sure. And then we're kind of in other people's. We just got to figure out which ones. I thank you guys for having me because this was fun as a first experience like this.
Yeah, man.
I'm sorry, but you guys are the GOAT right now.
Yeah, man.
I'm sorry, but you guys are the GOAT right now.
Appreciate that.
And Andy, I did want to make this comment. Listen, I don't know how many people actually always make it to the end of our shows and see this portion because it is a long show. But I will say this. Number one, we are so humbled by the attention we've gotten. When we first started, it was all just best friends. It was Andy's friends, it was my friends, and some connections we had with like other pastors and things. But now that we're starting to actually build a different community and merge with other communities, I had another guy, shout out to you, Nikki, 2 times. He messaged in our comments yesterday, or in Spine Tick's comments. He's like, "This is the most underrated show here," and I was like, "What?" And people are like really praising the show, and I appreciate that. We did put a lot of work in the background to make sure it was formatted in a certain way so that it'd be palpable and not just a bunch of talking. Because those shows are out there, but we were just looking for a certain audience that look, you can kind of jump through.
Something different.
And one, we didn't want to. We really didn't want to do something that everybody else was doing. And even there are ranking shows, but we have our own spin. Like Andy loves what is it, Bread Basket?
Bread Basket 303.
Makeshift,
they're so good.
Yeah, the makeshift guys. I love watching them. They rank things. There's other Rushmore shows that have kind of fallen, which we found. I'm going to say we're nobody special. We are just like everybody else. We just decided to hit record one day, see how it went, and we love where we're going. We sure ain't Spine Ticks with $100,000 yet. We ain't even General Kenobi with 6, or Bert that hit 15. But I started watching all these guys when they were like hundreds, and so hopefully we can kind of get where we need to be. DJ, we're gonna support you in the community. Paul and 619, all you guys. Welcome to the show.
Invite,
welcome to being here. If you want to be a part of the show, it's easy as just going into the comments, sharing something, say, hey, look, I'd love to be on. We have 6 topics, and we'll head out today after this. We got 6 topics. Right now, we're hanging out in movies and TV. We'll jump into nostalgia for the next 2 months. Then sports, anything sports. We've talked baseball, basketball, football. We haven't done hockey yet. We haven't done any of the other side sports, but we can always go back into any of those. And then we'll finish off the year with food, any kind of food. We've got some ideas, favorite potato chips, favorite sauces. If you guys want to be a part of any of those shows, then we'll restart the year with all our video game bros. We have most of our followership is in the video game world. I don't know how that ended up happening. We'll have a ton of those video game guys back in January and February. March and April, we'll be back to music, and then sweeping it back, it's movies and TV again. That's our 6 topics we'll do every 2 months for the rest of the time, so you guys will keep watching and enjoying it. So thank you, James, for being on. Bethany, I know you're rewatching the rewatch. We can't wait to have you on the show another time. And all the amazing friends, if you guys are watching, hello. And it's time to go. Andy, I think you have an appointment to be at. I have somewhere to be. And guys, how about the film Cannon's first live, Retro Cannon? Go follow Retro Cannon, his very first live, and we are going to rip some packs. So go back and watch his stuff. It also, Girl Dad. Andy is Girl Dad. Go follow his show. He's been a little
that's you?
He takes these little journeys with.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I'm the Girl Dad.
He takes the journeys with his kids. So if you ever see us in the comments, I'm always rocking it from the Rushmore side. Andy's always rocking it from the Girl Dad side. And every once in a while, I pop in with Retro Cannon with Cannon if he's there. Cool. That's 3 pages. Go follow them. Subscribe. Boost up our kids. Mainly that's his girls who he's got to go visit. But, man, we love all you guys. We love the community. Keep doing what we're doing. But, Andy, it's time to go home.
All right, well, let's say goodnight like we always do. This is the Rushmore Show, where it's all about your top 4.
And nothing more.
Peace.